Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Kurt Levens. Welcome, Kurt.
Hello, David. How are you today?
I'm good. Yeah, it's almost over the preseason. I guess they got one more game in Europe. The Edmonton Oilers do. They won today's game, beat the Calgary Flames 4-3, was it? And yes. Not kind of a weird game. It was like the most boring game of the preseason, which is saying a lot for the first half, and then the Oilers came alive and started to play well. Kurt, let's go through the roster today, line by line and defense pairing by defense pairing, because I think we do have fairly set units in each case, and just discuss where each line is right now. Let's start off with the first line. Where do you think that line is, and what are your thoughts heading into the regular season about any kind of issues around it?
Well, we saw 2/3 of the first line today. Connor McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins were intact. They set Ty Rattie out today. Just he's banged up a little bit, just minor, I understand. So Tobias Reeder was on the right side with them today. Reeder looked a whole lot like a bottom six player on the McDavid line, so we'll set him aside. Lots of wheels, not much touch. Judging by what we've seen in the preseason, we don't have anything to worry about with McDavid and Nugent-Hopkins. They had the chemistry they had last spring. We saw again all this fall, and we all know by now how sharp their new right winger has looked. So once Ty Rattie is healthy and back on that right-hand side, it looks like that first line is locked and ready to go.
Yeah, the coach, I don't think Ty Rattie has anything to worry about. He's completely won over the coaching staff. He's won over the fans, and he plays a game that really fits in well, and that he doesn't need the puck. He gets to open spaces. When he has the puck, it's quickly off his stick, either to McDavid or Nugent-Hopkins, or on net. And he's got a good accurate shot. He makes accurate passes. He's a smart player. He fills in well. He's done everything you'd ask. The poor guy, the only thing that happens, of course, just when everything's going right in his career, he gets injured. So we'll see how that works out. You know, injury is the wild card with any player, and suddenly guys they're not playing well. It's because they're hurt, and this could be Rattie's spot. I liked Reeder a little bit better than you did. Maybe I thought, as a fill-in player on the top line, he's not a bad fill-in player. He might score a goal or two. I think his best attribute though is like taking the puck and kind of bursting down the wing and Murray Wilson-like fashion and driving the puck on net. It's my obligatory 1970s hockey reference.
Murray Wilson, wow.
And of course, Nugent-Hopkins and McDavid. McClellan has it right.
That's a pretty good name.
Yeah. The coach has it right with Nugent-Hopkins and McDavid, and that line's good to go. Second line, what are you thinking?
Well, today, Draisaitl was excellent, made 4 or 5 excellent defensive plays. Didn't show much of anything offensively until the power play, and he slid that nifty little 7-8 foot pass over to McDavid for the power play goal. That seemed to put some jump in his step, and the rest of the game, I thought he looked way more like the old Leon Draisaitl. So fingers crossed that that's what's coming over the next few games. Milan Lucic, he didn't cause any problems defensively, but you got to see more offensive push from the guy. I kind of wrote in my post-game reviews of the players that the puck seemed to be either an inch ahead or an inch behind of Milan Lucic all night long. Not good enough for your second-line left winger. I'm sure Milan knows that, and we'll see how this plays out and how long that Todd will stick with him on that second unit before he considers making a flip.
Yeah, and we don't even know who the winger is going to be because Yamamoto has looked his weakest as a player when he's been teamed up with Draisaitl and Lucic. McClellan, so there was 3 questions in the post-game press conference about that line. So clearly there's a lot of questions about that line. There was only like 10 questions in total. And so the media is asking the coach, and they're asking about Draisaitl. And McClellan made it clear there's just no doubt in his mind that Draisaitl could drive a line. And I have no doubt at all. That's not the issue on that line. The issue really is Lucic. And whether the puck's going to keep dying on his stick like it did last year, shift after shift, and whether he can crank it up and add to the offensive game and play solid defensive hockey. I have a lot of questions about the player. I honestly, heading into the year, I see him as a third line guy, a third line checker, and not a top line player anymore. And I think if he's framed that way, it's going to take some doing, because clearly the narrative around him is you got to play him on the second line because you don't want to lose him, and you can't lose him like you lost him last year. Well, I just think Lucic has to earn his place on this team, and I have yet to be convinced of that, and I don't know who the winger is going to be who fits in on that line. I just honestly, I think that Draisaitl would be better off with Yamamoto and Rieder as his winger, Yamamoto and Kajula at this point. But I'm certainly open to Lucic earning that spot, but he hasn't earned it yet.
And the other interesting thing that came out of today's game is that Kyler Yamamoto kind of did nothing until he was moved off that line. And as soon as he moved down with Kajula and JJ, that's when he got the 2 goals and really seemed like the player came to life. So then you start to think, well, if he's actually your third wing right winger, Jesse's earned his way onto the team. Where does that land? So it's a nice problem to have on the right-hand side, because Ty Ratty, Kyler Yamamoto, and Jesse Puljujarvi have all had really strong training camps.
They all came through. The only cautionary note is that Puljujarvi has done his best work as the main man and driver on the line, and I think he should stay there. I think it would be a mistake to take him off. Maybe you put Yamamoto on the off wing on that third line and move Kyra as the center and move Strome up to play with Draisaitl. Puljujarvi and Lucic were a mix last year, and they both were in terrible slumps by the end of the season playing together. And I don't think Puljujarvi and Lucic play well together on the same line, because they just don't mix. So I hope we're not dealing with this question of where Lucic fits in all year long. And I don't have a good feeling about it at this point. He's yet to he didn't make his mark with McDavid. He was just okay with Nugent Hopkins and Eberle. In the playoffs, that line came apart. He wasn't good last year with McDavid and or on any line. So he's got to find it. Lucic has got to get it into his head to find a role on this team. And here we are talking about the third line, and I'm still bringing up Lucic. So the third line, though, there's plenty of good options between Strome, Kara, Puljujarvi, Kajula, who came on, finally had a good Drake Kajula kind of game where he's hitting and making some plays. Yamamoto. There's lots of options for the third line, who I think are strong options. Fourth line, what do you think?
Well, Brodziak's a lock. He'll be at 4C. There's no question about that. I don't think Pontus Aberg will make this team. I don't think he'll be around. And Alex Chiasson did not have a good game today. He had 2 5-alarm giveaways in his own zone in the first period. I somehow doubt he gets a contract. Keep in mind, Scotty Upshall, by the way, has agreed to go to the minors and is going to report to Bakersfield. And so you have to wonder, he doesn't need to sign a contract to do that, right? He can go down and do that. So one wonders why you would do that with Upshall and sign Alex Chiasson. Based on today's evidence, I'm not sure Chiasson gets a contract.
Maybe Chiasson will be willing to go to the minors as well on the same kind of terms as Upshall, because I agree. I don't mind Pontus Aberg, but he's nothing to, like, he's not like Aberg, or excuse me, not like Kajula with that little bit of jump and feistiness in his game to go with the skill. So that sets him back. Brodziak has not been very strong in preseason, but he is like a very aged veteran. So we would expect him to be holding back. Zach Kassian,
he was good on the PK today, but I didn't notice him otherwise, and he didn't have a single hit on the stat board by the end of the 60 minutes. So.
Yeah. So it looks like it'll be, who knows who will be the winger there, Kajula, or, I mean, who will be the extra forward?
Kajula had a very strong game today. I mean, this was the game we were waiting Drake Kajula to play all training camp long. I know he was sick early, and maybe that just knocked more out of them than we think. But today he played more like Drake the Good than Drake, the guy we've seen the rest of this September. So cross your fingers. And maybe based on that game, he gets a shot at 4 left wing.
He's always been at least capable of playing in the NHL, I think, as a fourth liner. I think he's, he did score 13 goals. I mean, how many other wingers scored that many goals on the Oilers last year? None. So he's, if you don't include Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins, it's none. So I see him making the team, obviously, and maybe third line, maybe fourth line, maybe even moving up to the second line to play with Draisaitl, because we still don't know who's going to play with Draisaitl. Let's move to the defense, and I'll start it off with Larson and Clefbaum. Larson left the game with a back spasm. The coach downplayed the significance of it. I think last year he also had back issues, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So Larson hasn't looked particularly good. I thought Clefbaum really did look good this game, though. I'm looking for that Oscar Clefbaum, who was a dominant player, an actual dominant player in a top pairing role in the 2017 playoffs. So I saw that player tonight. I saw glimpses of that player, was really encouraged because Oscar Clefbaum can really move well with the puck. And if there's a couple issues with this team, one of them is the second line now. That's what we're left with heading into the season. And the other one is the lack of puck-moving defensemen. And Clefbaum really needs to step up into that role on the top pairing and get it done. And there was some indication tonight that was going to happen, that he's going to be that player. He's in his peak years now. He should be ready to go, and he looked good to go tonight.
Yeah, he played over 25 minutes, led the club in ice time, played in all three disciplines, 5-on-5, power play, and penalty kill, earn an assist. And also, because Larson was out, you might have noticed that he kept flipping back and forth between left hand, right hand, and didn't look out of place on the right side. Now, I don't think for a second that's where he'll end up. But top pairing guys should have the ability to, in a pinch, slide over there and play minutes on their weak side. And I thought he did a pretty good job of that today.
Second pairing, Darnell Nurse and Matt Benning. I thought, they're still working the wrinkles out in their game there. They had a few bad moments, but I'm very bullish on Darnell Nurse. I always have been. I think he's a solid second pairing left side defenseman in the NHL. I'm less convinced with Benning. I'm worried about his puck moving. I think he's one of the players who really has to step up in terms of quickly delivering crisp passes up the ice. But he has the potential to do that. So these guys have played together for a while. They've been a good third pairing in the NHL, and I think that they could be an adequate, at least, second pairing.
Well, here's where this gets interesting for me. I'm 100% with you and Darnell Nurse. You and I have, for a long time now, seen eye to eye on that player. I think he's a very good 3-4 NHL D-man. With Benning had a good training camp, was not good tonight. Really struggled, both in his own zone and moving the puck. And if you look at this roster as a whole, 9 defensemen on it, including Sekera. Take Sekera off. Well, who's the best puck-moving D-man of the 3? Benning, Bear, or Bouchard? Well, I think Benning is the third of those 3.
I agree.
Yeah, Bouchard was great again today. Bears had a very strong training camp, particularly offensively. I can see those 2 young kids getting more power play reps than Benning.
Oh, I think Bouchard should be on the top power play, Kurt. They need a right shot. I don't like all these left shot guys in the top power play unit. And I think Bouchard's a better puck mover right now than Clefbaum. I think he's just the smoothest, the smartest, the quickest with the puck. Whether he can defend is a whole other question. But with the puck on his stick, he's got really strong skill. To me, he's been the story. The most exciting thing about the camp has been Evan Bouchard, because I didn't know what we were gonna see. But he hasn't been exposed on defense, and he's been really slick with the puck. And to me, it would be a shocker if he wasn't in the third pairing on opening night, probably with Chris Russell as his partner. Russell's a solid hockey player and could really help someone like Bouchard. Although Jarabek had his best game of the preseason tonight, he actually looked like, he should be on this team. And if they decide to go with him over Garrison and decide to move on, that's based on his play. Like, he's been steadily improving, Jarabek has, each game. And this game, he actually had a good game and looked solid in the game.
Well, there's something to be said for veteran players and structure. And as training camps move on, games gain more and more structure. More veteran players are in, systems are starting to come together. Veteran players like Jarabek will realize, okay, the man should be there. The puck should be here. It tends to be scrambly early in the season, and it's not always so easy to forecast where that puck or that man's going to be. The later on in training camp it gets, the easier, in quotes, those reads get for a veteran D-man like him. So I agree with you on that point. Defense will be very interesting. Garrison coming in on the PTO, Jarabek already with a contract. you got to think that contract is weighing pretty big and heavy in Peter Chiarelli's mind right now in terms of who do I keep.
Because they also have Kevin Gravel, who I thought looked decent enough in the minor leagues. And is Garrison that much of a step up from Kevin Gravel? They have Ethan Bear, who's gotten stronger, not weaker, as camp has gone along. And that's really surprised me. I thought as the games got tougher that he would be exposed on defense like he was at the end of last year. And I still think that Bear is best served by going to the AHL and playing 22, 23, 24 minutes a game rather than sitting in the press box. Like if he can't beat out Bouchard, and I don't think that he has personally, then I think he should go to the AHL probably. And I guess who does that leave then? If Russell's healthy, then you have Yarabek as your seventh defenseman. If Russell's not healthy, Bear sticks around, I guess, if they don't sign Garrison. Do you think so? You don't think they're going to sign Garrison? What's your?
I have my doubts they're going to sign Garrison. The only wild card on that, I think, will be the health of Chris Russell. But from what I understand, his injury is a relatively minor thing, and they expect him to be ready for Game 1. Here's a couple other thoughts on those two young D-men. With Bouchard, interesting. He had a very strong game tonight, but the best moment was the 2-on-1 that he broke up. Odd man rush coming the other way by the Flames. He played it perfectly, got his stick in the lane and broke it up. And for a kid like that to have that to be the highlight of his game when he's an offensive defenseman is very positive. And in the case of Ethan Bear, you mentioned the 17, 18 games he played last spring. I think that's what we're seeing now, David, is once you get your feet under you in the NHL, everything starts to slow down. That's one thing. And the other thing is he really put work in the offseason, and I think Ethan's feet have sped up. And the combination of those two things is just making him look more comfortable defensively late here in training camp.
A lot of people say, well, you shouldn't rush Bouchard, and this is a fine point. But to me, rushing a player is if he has to play in the top 4 in defense. If you have to just play the bottom pairing, you're not being exposed. You're playing against 3rd, 4th line guys, generally speaking, at even strength. So players who, even if they get around you, probably aren't going to beat the goalie. So you don't have your confidence crushed with a goal against. With Bouchard, I thought his best game was actually, I think it was leading into Yamamoto's goal that off the Kajula feed.
Mm-hmm.
I think, if I'm not mistaken on that play, Bouchard took the puck and just quickly shot up the middle of the ice and stick handled around one guy and then quickly advanced it. And it was, to me, that's the kind of moment that you see constantly from Bouchard in terms of his efficient puck moving, which has me excited about this player. And he certainly is filling that need on the Edmonton Oilers right now. And if they can avoid playing him in a top 4 situation this year, I mean, if Larson and Russell were hurt, then you have a problem, right? Because suddenly you don't have a plethora of top 4 D-men anymore. So, but if they can keep him in the bottom pairing, I think they'll be okay. In net, Cam Talbot obviously is looking sharp, and I've liked Koskinen's game. He's slowly gotten better each game as well, and I see him. Who knows? Like, it's kind of exciting when you think. I can see why people in the Oilers organization were excited enough to give him both a 1-year deal at $2.5 million and the no movement clause, which has caused a bit of a stir. The second you give him that amount of money, though, like if he's not performing, you can't trade him anyway. So I don't know the downside of the no movement clause. In any case, he's looked better each game that he's played in net. When he's on, he's quite formidable because he is so huge. He's on his knees and his shoulders are up to the crossbar. So, and
he's quick post to post too. You sometimes wonder if a goaltender that size, speed will be an issue. That doesn't seem to be the case with him.
Yeah, I wonder where the bar is. Like if he can be league average save percentage, he'll be passing the test as a backup goalie. Even if he's 9-10, I think that's pass fail would be about a 9-10 save percentage with Koskinen. So hopefully he'll get in there and he'll earn that spot. So Kurt, let me just go on to Twitter here. Why don't you talk about what you're seeing we'll just end up with a quick talk about these special teams. What do you think of the power play?
Well, the power play and the penalty kill special teams last year, there was nothing special about them. They absolutely murdered this team from the second game of the season right to the end. Well, it was the mirror image today where we got 2 power play goals and the PK was 1 for 7, including there was a stretch 4 minutes and 3 seconds from late in the first period to well into the second period, where the Oilers were shorthanded, and for a big chunk of that, on 2 different occasions, were on 5-on-3s, and Calgary didn't score. That really turned the tide for the entire game. Momentum swept aside from there. The Oilers started to get a little bit of juice in offense, and the comeback was underway. So I thought the PK looked excellent, but like with any good PK, their best penalty killer was Cam Talbot, who was very good through all of those minutes and was just rock steady. So power play clicked twice, 6 successful kills out of 7 for the penalty kill. I think you'll take that every day of the week, David, and twice on Sundays.
Yeah, on the power play, I'm not liking the 5 left-handers together. I know they did score 2 goals. One of them came on a rush. The other one was on a more of a set play where McDavid shot the puck, which is what he's got to do. One of the reasons I don't like it is what I noticed today is that Lucic, the opposing defenses are just abandoning him in front of the net, and they're on the other 4 players. So they're going to have to figure out a way for them to take advantage of that. Like he's got 10 feet, it looks like, of ice where they're just giving it to him and saying, well, let's see if you can score, buddy. So the Oilers are going to have to either take advantage of that, like just put the puck on net and have him either deflect it or jam it in. Or if he can't do that, they got to move him out of there and think about some other power play. Because right now they're concentrating on those 4 other guys and stifling them that way and just kind of giving the gimme to Lucic. So Lucic has got to take the gimme. If he can't make the gimme, he's got to go.
Well, I'd flip him right off the first pair with Tyrati. I know, righty. So there's a right-handed shot, but there's also a guy that his game is going to the net and is quick with the puck. And also think of the other advantage of that. If he's on that first unit power play with McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, then that whole line is together as well, which makes it way easier for Todd and his staff to manage lines after the power play finishes as well. So I think there's a couple advantages to making that swap. Don't get me wrong. I think Milan Lucic can be valuable on the power play, but like you, I'm suspect that first unit is the best place for him.
I agree with you. And the thing about the lines is really important. You can come right back with the McDavid line right after the end of the power play and go for it with your top line, which is, I think, really important as well. So, well, Kurt, let's leave it there and we'll see what other moves are made. And, if there's any big moves, maybe we'll do another podcast tomorrow or the next day.
Sounds good. I'll be on call.
Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.